Since it was the first time I came to a Dokja's official post, I looked at some of the documents on the table while Byung managed the constellations. Singularity Trend Report. Singularity. The moment I curiously turned a few pages, the documents disappeared into dust. It seemed to be a database system, not real documents. Byung looked this way. What are you doing? Nothing. Byung saw the powder on the table and looked at me suspiciously. Then he sighed and opened his mouth. Hey, are we okay? Why? Are you regretting it now? The constellations that come out using this method will leave quickly. The fallen constellations would return to Tokyo Dome Channel. At that time, Dokja's revenge would begin. But that was for then. Besides, you lied before. What the hell are you going to do? What if the subscriptions really hit 10,000? It's already 5,000. I shrugged without speaking, and Byung continued. Wasn't there a condition for you not to choose a sponsor when you signed the contract with me? How can you say something like this? It'll work out somehow. You can also break the contract. I can't do that. Jerk. I risked my life for you, yet you can't do this? Byung's expression darkened. Indeed, I was a fool to expect anything. I told him, don't worry, I have an idea. Really? Yeah, so give me my item. Dokja's gone, so shouldn't you hand me the item now? Oh, that's right. Byung belatedly manipulated the system. Then after a while, a white coat descended from the air. The clean design carefully paid attention to the fashion as well as combat function. I took the coat and checked the pocket first. The special space feature of the infinite dimension space coat is activated. The advantage of this coat was I could store various items in it without the inventory skill. It was a good item for me since there were many troublesome items to carry around, such as the Gampangui, Dogobi Bogam, the magic power stove. By the way, it's white unlike the catalog photo. The other color is out of stock. Out of stock? How many of these items were there? Don't you know? This is a mass production item. I checked the options of the items. Item information. Name. Infinite Dimension Space Code, version 1.1. Made by mass production maker. Rating. SSS. Description. A customized coat for returnees. Despite being mass-produced product, it was mysteriously given an SSS rating. In consideration of returnees who can't activate the attributes window, the additional subspace function can be activated from the inner pocket of the coat. Of course, the space isn't wide, so use it cautiously. I looked at it again. Only the subspace could be used, but it had an SSS rating. And considering that an ancient dragon Ignitus heart had an SS grade. Honestly, it's due to the influence of the maker. He's a powerful constellation. Made sense. The mass production maker was a famous constellation among returnees. Even if the rating was a bit off, this was one of the best items to get early on. In any case, I received it. Let's go back. Byung flicked his fingers and the surroundings started to change. I blinked once and returned to the ground. Hansoon freaked out and retreated when I suddenly appeared in thin air. Hey, where the hell did you go? I had to do something for a moment. Was it resolved well? Sometimes Hansoon had a habit of speaking like this without knowing what happened. Was it a writer's ego? I just nodded. New clothes? Damn, I'm envious. She gazed at the coat, staring with envious eyes, and then at Yu Jonguk, who was still unconscious. She looked between Yu Jonguk's black coat and my white coat before opening her mouth. By the way, are you a couple? It's just a coincidence. It's common design. The constellation Demon Like Judge of Fire is delighted for an unknown reason. The constellation who likes to change gender has shining eyes. Come to think of it, there are many unique constellations. Who is the constellation that liked to change gender? Does constellation appear in Ways of Survival? I thought I should look through the novel soon. The constellation Demon Like Judge of Fire is controlling the constellation who likes to change gender. Speaking of which, I decided to look at Yu Jonguk. Fortunately, his recovery seemed to be going smoothly. His breathing was stable, and his wounds were healing. Let's go quickly, before this jerk wakes up. Yu Jonguk had fainted with 2 clenched fists. It wasn't hard to imagine what would happen if this guy woke up first. I left Gondong-gu with Han Soo-young. Yu Sung-a was being carried by Han Soo-young's avatar. She was still unconscious from exhaustion. I'd gone back to the battlefield where we fought Antinous but couldn't fight like Heion. There was no body, so he seemed to be alive. I just didn't know why he didn't come to me. He must be severely injured after being struck by the hatchling disaster. Han Soo-young looked at me and asked, Is it okay to really leave him? It's fine. But that is the poisoner. Can you trust her? The unconscious Yu Jonguk was left with Lee Sohwa. The poisoner isn't originally a bad person. It's due to the parasite. In many episodes where she wasn't infected by the guide, Lee Sol was called the doctor rather than the poisoner. Maybe it should be called that in this regression. Take him go to Gebongdong, the 5,603rd Military Division. A poor soldier will be waiting for you. I confirmed Lee Hyung-sung's location using Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, and decided to accept Yu Jung-uk's advice. I was arrogant to think I could raise my colleagues with my strength. I had limited time and information, even if I was a complete reader. Therefore, the best trainer for Lee Hyung-sung right now wasn't me, but Yu Jung-uk. I'm hungry. Shall we eat that? I point to a plant growing around a high-rise building. The 7th grade plant species, Yana Splenta, is looking at you. Han-seung looked at the large sunflower's eyes and cried out with fright. Can we eat that? We have to eat it because there's nothing else. According to ways of survival, it's quite delicious. It's also a child and easy to hunt. Han-seung made a disgruntled expression, and soon started to summon her avatars. We cut off the stems and tentacles of the plant species. The Yana Splenta was shortly disconnected from its roots and closed its eyes. Once again, I felt that it had become stronger. Even if it was young, a 7th grade species was handled so easily. Han-seung, are you going to eat? I don't know. Then I'll cook. I started cooking the Yana Splenta like I had read in Ways of Survival. I peeled off the hard skin of the stem and sprinkled a bit of herb salt I got from a nearby grocery store. The inside contained pinkish flesh reminiscent of seasonal crab meat. Han-seung's eyes shone. What the hell is this? It's a plant, right? That's right. We're eating a salad? Of course not. I'll burn it. I roughly cut off a branch of the surrounding tree, turned the Yana Splenta stalk into skewers, and put it on the magic power stove. I set the stove to a medium fire, but it took a long time to cook because it was 7th grade species. I flipped it around a few times and then sprinkled more salt. After some time, the smelling of grilled meat filled the area. Hey, can you smell it? Wait, we can't eat just yet. I stopped her from reaching into the stove and handed her a teacup. Drink this before eating. What is it? Juice from the boiled stem. It needs to be consumed before eating the Yana Splenta. Han-seung took the cup with a doubtful expression. And after a while, her expression became impressed. She drank all the juices and started to cut the stem. Eat slowly. This isn't a joke. You can really cook. Maybe only in this ruined world. I laughed because she looked like a 5-year-old child stuffing her face with good food. Some constellations who love cooking are curious about your cooking. Some constellations who like fast progress and violence are complaining. The constellation Prison of the Golden Headband says to keep watching. There was only 1 week left until the start of the 5th scenario. The burning hell disaster and disaster questions had been overcome, making the development smooth. Yu Jung-uk would take the disaster in the west, with Lee Hyung-sung once he woke up, while the Wanderer King would handle the north. The only thing left now to be aware of was the central disaster. I picked up the Yana Splenta juice and looked at the still unconscious Yu-sanga. Yu-sanga-shi? Was I mistaken? The unconscious Yu-sanga obviously flinched. I know your mental state right now. Come on and eat. If you don't, I'll just eat it myself. Yu-sanga didn't rise. Then I heard a growling sound coming from her stomach. You must be sleeping. Then we'll eat this. Ugh, too delicious. Wait a minute, Yu-sanga cried out and rose from her spot. As expected, Yu-sanga couldn't lie down after smelling the food. She consumed a lot of stamina, so it was natural for her to be hungry. I glanced over to Han-seung, who was still eating. Hey, you've eaten a lot, so get up. Why? Do you have to ask? Tch, you make people feel uncomfortable. I understand. Maybe Han-seung knew that Yu-sanga was already awake. She also knew that Yu-sanga wouldn't move because of Han-seung's presence. This girl was really bad. I'll go around the area once. Don't eat it all and leave me some, understood? Han-seung grabbed a skewer and disappeared into the darkness. Once she completely disappeared, Yu-sanga slowly approached. The skewer on top of the stove made a delicious cooking sound. I gave the skewer to the hesitating Yu-sanga. Yu-sanga accepted and started biting into it. Yu-sanga ate one skewer and barely managed to open her mouth. Delicious. There were tears in her eyes. Anyone who saw her now wouldn't think she was the girl wielding daggers. Eat slowly. The 2 daggers at her waist showed that her appearance during the daytime wasn't a dream. It was 1 month since the destruction began. I felt like there was a lot of work to do. Yu-sanga ate the skewers silently, while I also ate while watching her. The skewers were really delicious. It was as if the taste wasn't of this world. Yu-sanga watched the flames blazing from the stove and muttered, This is real. Probably. Now we can't go back? Yeah, probably. Yusanga's hands faintly trembled. She killed humans with those hands. In order to live, her hands had taken away the lives of others. The hand that had been covered in someone else's blood now covered her eyes. Her shoulders intermittently shook. It was probably her last pride that no sobs leaked out. It isn't your fault. I didn't know if my words comforted her or not. I couldn't see Yusanga's heart. Yusanga started to cry. Tears flowed down her face, and the skewer she was eating fell to the ground. How much more would she cry? Her sobs died down. The 7th grade Yanaspunta showed a strong sleeping effect when eaten without taking the juices. I looked at her for a while before opening my mouth. It really isn't your fault. Those words for Yusanga. So, at the same time, I spoke words not directed towards Yusanga. Up to find out who you are. How about it? In the ruined city, the spooky cries of monsters were heard. It seemed like I was talking to myself. I watched Yusanga while asking, are you going to pretend? I don't know why you're watching me, but haven't you been doing it for a while now? The white blade of an unbroken face shone in the darkness. I won't hesitate to do anything to reach my purpose. I pushed the white blade towards Yusanga's throat. You better open your mouth quickly, unless you want your precious incarnation to die. From now on, it was a game of chicken. I waited while gradually pushing the blade towards her throat. The blade was 1 centimeter away from her throat, and blood started to flow. All of a sudden, Yusanga's eyes shone. The exclusive skill, 4th wall, is offset your mental shock. There was a gust of wind, and I was thrown away from Yusanga's body. There was a menacing presence that made my heart dull. A faint glow appeared around Yusanga's body. I looked into Yusanga's blurry eyes. Revolving the pupils, the shadow of a distant nebula was heard. Then a voice like thunder burst inside my head. Insignificant human. I wiped the blood flowing from my mouth and grinned. They finally appeared. Damn constellations of Olympus.